Remember that catastrophe at the Jupiter station? Well, it's not just fixed. It's had a massive upgrade. They've even installed brand new force shields, a technology humanity just developed right there on the station. It might sound harsh, but Earth would rather lose a station than an entire colony. Think about it. A space station is expensive, sure, but it's way cheaper and faster to build than a colony. Colonies need so much more planning. Space is a radiological nightmare. If the cold and vacuum don't get you, the radiation will. Stations are constructed with heavy shielding to handle this. But colonies? They're usually built inside old caves or volcanic tubes for natural protection, so they don't need the same level of resource-intensive shielding. It's all about smart survival out in the void. What do you think is the next big step for humanity in space? The transmission from Earth Command sent a shockwave through the entire station. Panic erupted. What about us? What about our research? Scientists stormed the command deck, demanding answers. One researcher, pale-faced, protested that his experiment had just begun. Shutting it down now would mean a year of data lost forever. Amid the chaos, the station commander raised his hands for silence. "Calm down," he boomed. "We are not moving tomorrow." He explained this was just the beginning, the planning stage. They had to run countless structural analyses. Could the station even withstand the pressures of hyperspace? Imagine going to all this trouble, only to have our home ripped apart, leaving a trail of debris all the way to the Jovian system. No, we would do this right, or not at all. The crowd began to settle down. The station commander's voice boomed with reassurance. It will be at least a year before this station even thinks about moving. Now please return to your duties. You still have experiments to run. Slowly, the crowd dispersed. A mix of relief and lingering suspicion on their faces as they headed back to labs and living quarters. The executive officer stepped forward, his voice low. "What will you tell them, Commander, when they find out the station is moving without them?" The commander didn't turn. He just kept his eyes fixed on the long corridor, watching the last of his crew disappear. "I'll cross that bridge when we come to it," he said, his tone heavy. "For now, we prepare. We have a full structural inspection starting tomorrow, then heavy weapon installations. We need to know if this old bird can handle the stress of hyperspace." The XO just nodded, the unspoken truth hanging in the recycled air between them. The commander looked the XO dead in the eye. "Don't say anything to anyone right now. We need to keep this compartmentalized, even from the bridge staff." The XO gave a single curt nod in agreement before they parted ways. As the XO returned to the bridge to finish his watch before the junior officers relieved him, the commander made his way back to his quarters. He dismissed his guards, telling them he was not to be disturbed under any circumstances. Inside, he latched the hatch shut and engaged the lock. He strode to his desk, picking up his datapad. The screen glowed, displaying the latest intel. The border dispute was spiraling out of control. Command kept requesting a stationary weapons platform, a massive undertaking. The commander sighed. He knew it would take at least a decade to build a new space station from scratch. What were they really asking of him? Across the entire station, there's only one place capable of handling a heavy weapons retrofit: Jupiter Station. The commander knew this, but its power core was weak. He'd need to upgrade the existing one and install a secondary unit. He pulled up the station's overall diagram, making a quick copy. His fingers flew across the interface, digitally sealing windows and adding thicker, sometimes triple-layered, hull plating. The new force shield system was integrated next. He repurposed labs, converting them into barracks to house more troops, and strategically placed heavy weapon emplacements along the new reinforced structure. Just as he was finalizing the turret placements, a sharp knock echoed on his door. He sighed, rose from his chair, and opened it. Standing there was his XO Tom, holding 2 trays of food. The commander looked at him, his voice low. "Tom, I didn't want to be disturbed. The XO replied, "Well, you still need to eat. I brought us dinner." He held it up. "It's your favorite meatloaf." The commander managed a small smile. "Okay, get in here." As soon as Tom was inside, the commander shut the hatch and locked it again. Tom looked puzzled. "Why did you lock the hatch?" The commander walked back to his desk and sat down, a stern and concerned look on his face. He said he was working on something important. He then spun the computer monitor around to show Tom what it was. The XO looked stunned. "What is this?" he asked, his eyes wide. The commander told him it was a plan to retrofit the entire station for battle. Tom's voice dropped. "Do you know something the rest of us don't?" The commander didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled out his tablet, thumbed through a few tabs, and finally found the one he was looking for. He handed it over to Tom, who immediately began reading all the military communications from the Jovian system where the border wars were flaring up. The XO looked up at him, a single question in his eyes. "Are we going?" The commander simply nodded. "Once the structural inspections are done and approved, the shipyard crews will swarm in and begin retrofitting the station. With 5,000 people working around the clock, we can have this entire place refitted in just 6 weeks. We're talking kinetic heavy cannon turrets, the new plasma-based heavy cannons, plus room for another 5,000 ground troops. That's 10,000 boots on the ground and 5,000 station personnel." Tom was in shock, trying to process everything he'd just heard. Then he asked, "But what about all these lab coats?" "They're going to be furious about being kicked off the station." The commander just smiled. "What are they going to do about it?" The commander scoffed. "Throw a beaker at us? Maybe a stapler?" "They won't have a choice. We'll send them off to the research stations on Io or Europa. They'll get over it, especially after the president's announcement." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "We're not just fighting extremists anymore. This is a full-blown war with another alien race. And right now, the Jovian system is the only gateway to our solar system." The XO paused, looking puzzled. "But why, sir?" "It's space. Can't they just jump to another system and come in through the back door?" The commander smirked. "Theoretically, yes. But it would take them ages to calculate that jump. By the time they did, we could have a whole fleet waiting to blast them the second they drop out of hyperspace." The XO just nodded. The commander looked at him. "So you have no idea what I just explained, do you?" The XO simply shook his head, not saying a word. They both chuckled. "How have you survived this long as a pilot without a clue how space navigation even works?" the commander asked. The XO just shrugged. "Luck," he said. They both laughed again and started to eat, pondering the heavy topic they had just discussed. After a moment, Tom looked at the commander. "So, we're going to war again, old friend?" The commander nodded slowly. "Yes, old friend. The dogs of war are about to be released once again." The XO raised his fork slightly. Here. It's been a long time since we've seen a real war. Most of these young pups weren't even born when the last one happened." The commander agreed, his expression growing serious. He looked at me and said, "They'll find out quick, or they won't come home. Now let's finish eating." I agreed, then asked if we were going to get hot food this time around, or if we were stuck eating those awful rations again. We both laughed. The commander said they were horrible, just little multicolored cube things. All you needed was water, and they would expand in your stomach. We laughed even harder. I told him, yeah, that would be great if we actually had water to drink with those chalky things. He calmed down a bit and said, "I'm sure we'll have hot food this time. We're on a space station with a full mess hall. We aren't in fighters anymore, stuck to an asteroid, waiting to ambush them, trying to get a meal in while we waited. We're not on some rock between battles, trying to stuff those things down our throats." After dinner, The commander reached for an old, dusty bottle of whiskey. He poured 2 glasses, the amber liquid catching the low light of his quarters. He slid one across the table to his XO, who lifted it, sniffing the rich aroma before taking a small, reverent sip. He savored the taste, a moment of peace in the quiet hum of the station. With a nod, the XO left for a walk along the observation deck, leaving the commander alone with his thoughts. The commander turned back to his desk, pulling up the rendering he'd spent weeks perfecting. He stared at it, a blueprint for the future. With a deep breath, he signed his name and sent the file to the station admiral for final approval. Then he leaned back, the empty glass in his hand, and spent the night wondering what the next 6 months would bring. The next morning, the structural engineers arrived. They got straight to work, inspecting the station's structural skeleton. In a way, the commander was both hoping for and dreading this inspection. He knew the implications if the station wasn't fit for battle. The war would inevitably reach the Sol system. He also knew that, one way or another, the station would be dragged into the conflict. The difference was critical. If the structure passed, they would take the time to mount the weapons properly, turning the station into a formidable fortress. But if it failed, they would just hastily throw some cannons on it, wish the escaping personnel luck, and we'd be left behind as a mere speed bump. We'd enter the battle, fire on the advancing forces, and maybe, just maybe, slow them down. But the station would either rip itself apart from the stress or be obliterated by enemy fire. If this station gets approved, we can finally move it, transport the whole thing over to the Jovian system, and keep the coming war contained in a dead system, far, far away from Earth. I truly hope and pray we can make this jump, to keep the fight out of our own backyard. The inspection took several days to complete, and the initial exam looks promising. There were just a few structural beams the engineers questioned. Visually, they weren't sure about the stability, so they're waiting on the full scans before rendering their final report. In the meantime, it's duties as usual. But today, I'm going to do something I haven't done in a long time. I'm going to walk the station. As I strolled through the corridors, I looked at everyone, watched the children running and playing. Seeing them, so full of life, filled me with an immense sense of pride. This is what we're fighting for. For years, he never left the command deck. His world was confined to tactical displays, star charts, and the stern faces of his military staff. The constant pressure, the endless cycle of duty had drained him. But today was different. Today, he walked. He walked the civilian decks, a place he hadn't seen in years. At first, everyone just stopped and stared. Then, a small group of children, unafraid, ran up to him with bright smiles, welcoming the new person to the station. Their parents quickly corrected them, explaining this man was the commander, the one in charge of their very lives. The children looked confused, but their youthful energy soon sent them running off to play again. Other civilians watched him with nervous eyes. Traditionally, when a commander walked these corridors, it meant one thing: battle was imminent. But he just kept walking, a silent guardian among his people. For centuries, there's been a quiet tradition among human commanders, a ritual performed just before stepping into the crucible of battle. As they walk the long corridors toward their command posts, they ground themselves. They reach out and touch the walls. But what they're really doing is reaching back into their memories. They summon images of children playing, their laughter echoing in their minds, the sight of families living in peace. This isn't just for morale. It's a solemn promise. If the moment comes, if they must make the ultimate sacrifice to save their mission or protect innocent lives, these memories make the choice clear. They know that by giving their life, those children they remember will have a chance to live theirs to the fullest. This ancient practice continues, a testament to what we fight for. And now, the report is in. The station is structurally sound. We're arming up and heading for the Jovian system. The tradition lives on. The commander leaned back in his chair, the weight of his new orders settling heavily upon him, the Jovian system. It was real. Their destination was set. But how could he tell them? How could he look into the eyes of thousands of civilians, scientists, and families and say they were leaving everything behind? This station, their home, was being conscripted, turned into a mobile fortress. He imagined their faces, the shock, the fear. Their entire world, the only one many had ever known, was about to be ripped away and sent to a distant star to fight a war they hoped would never reach their own sun. He ordered a general assembly on the promenade for 0800 tomorrow. Tonight, however, he sat alone, a rare glass of earth whiskey in hand. It was meant for celebration, but tonight it was for steeling his nerves. Tonight it was for finding the right words. 7 o'clock. The alarm blared through the commander's quarters, but he hadn't slept. He was still on the couch, where he'd been all night. He took a deep, steadying breath, pushed himself up, and got ready to face his crew. As he walked down the corridor, his XO and his operations officer, Jack, fell into step beside him. Jack started rattling off the nightly operations report, a routine rundown of activity across the region. Then he paused. "Sir," he asked, his voice low, "is it true? Is the station really heading to the Jovian system?" The commander and the XO both stopped dead, exchanging a look. The XO turned to Jack. "How did you hear about that?" Jack hesitated, then admitted there was scuttlebutt going around about the station, moving to the front lines. The commander sighed. "No point in denying it. Yes, Jack, we are. The war is going badly. They need a base of operations and a heavy weapons platform. And that's us. At last, I've reached the promenade. I see so many of you standing here, waiting. I've lived among you for years now. Honestly, I hoped this final post would be my quiet escape from the front lines, a last stop before retirement. Living here, I experienced the chaos of civilian life for the first time in a long, long time. When I was first assigned here, I thought it was some kind of joke. Then I started to think I must have made someone really mad. I just couldn't understand why they'd take my battle group from me, the same Group 1D been with since I was 16 years old. And here I was, nearing retirement. That first year, I cursed the gods for their cruelty. I felt so lost. Then I began walking the decks amongst all of you, listening to your problems and grievances, and working to solve them. I started watching the children running around, smiling and playing. I finally realized that this wasn't a punishment. The command staff knew I was around the military and in space for too long, and they wanted me to get acclimated back to civilian life. As time went on, I began to secretly enjoy myself alongside all of you. Some of you I call friends. Others I consider my family. Since I haven't seen my own family for decades, that's the cost of being in space for so long with the military. Most of you I consider rich, just because you have your family and loved ones standing right next to you. Many of you have lived on this station for a very long time and consider this home. Phantom static, where the phantoms speak through the static.